Hey everybody, and welcome to The Void, a show dedicated to filling the void between being an employee and becoming self-employed. Most people refer to starting your own company as taking the leap, as if they're blindly jumping off a cliff and into the unknown. This show is here to help you understand that it doesn't have to be that way. As always, if you like what you're hearing on the show, please do us a favor and help share The Void with somebody else who might be wanting to start their own company. We saw an opportunity to help others understand that self-employment is well within your reach, and just as our businesses have grown organically and by word of mouth, we want this show to grow the same way. So if you see somebody asking questions about starting their own service-based business, please do us a favor and send them a link to the show. I'm your host, Mitch Smedley, and with me as always is David Hilton.
Mitch, bro.
David,
I had a great day today.
I hear that.
It was a great fucking day today.
Yeah, I'm going to, you want
to know what I did?
We joked around about it before the show. I'm just going to do it right now.
What?
I'm texting your wife.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I got, I'm just going to give you a little recap.
Yep.
It was pretty good. So got up early, took the truck, trailer, went and got wood today, firewood for all of you creepers out there. Got back. Janine helped me unload all of it. Was feeling pretty good. Then Brett Rim messaged me today, one of our Tradewinds members.
Yep.
He's like a sneak preview of his website. It fucking is awesome.
Yeah, there it is. Website's
cool.
It
looks so, on the phone, so on your phone as you're looking at it, which we know a lot of people, it looks great.
Yeah.
Like on your phone, it's fucking awesome.
Yep.
So I was super stoked about that. Got all the firewood unloaded. So Janine and I don't have like date night because we just can't. Like it's impossible. So I'm either doing Tradewinds stuff and she's taking her to soccer. Like there are no nights that line up. So usually like Monday or Tuesday we'll go out.
Right.
So today we went out, had lunch, was awesome. Got back, got in the hot tub for a while after having a few drinks. Yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada.
I'm at the podcast, feeling pretty good today. I mean, just so far, like I always feel like when I'm working during the day and I'm doing a lot of stuff, like I'm satisfied and I'm fulfilled. Like all the hard work that's going on,
Right.
You're just kind of like, okay, I got there. Today, there was none of that except for getting firewood, and I feel great today. It was just great. Are you seriously texting my wife?
Yeah, I said so. I said, David's in an exceptionally good mood today. Did you two bang this afternoon? And she says, maybe.
I didn't say that. I said we had lunch and got in the hot tub today.
She said, I asked her and she said maybe.
Oh, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Well,
but it was like
I told her it needs to happen more often.
Good for you.
You know
what?
You.
My best buddy. One of my best buddies in the whole world. I got two great friends.
Oh, business depends on it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But no, it's just, we've talked about before on the podcast, like, especially for me, like, there's just this weird drive of if I don't work myself to death, I don't feel like I'm fulfilled for the day or for the week or whatever. But I'm finally starting to realize if I don't take those times and like just have a little bit of work and then, take a break and do stuff, then I'm just beating myself to death. So finally, like today is like one of the first days I've realized, okay, I didn't have to kill myself today and I got stuff done and I still feel pretty good about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, wait until you read the book, How to Buy Your Time Back.
I'm not reading that. I'm not reading that fucking book. I mean, you know what? I say that. I might read that book. I actually...
Dude, audiobook it. It's a 7.5 hour playback if you listen to it on straight speed.
So
I can comprehend it on 1.2 speed. I tried 1.5 and it's too fast for me to work.
So you have, in the last 2 years, you have probably listed, I don't know, what, like 10, 12 books?
Yeah.
I've never gone home and written one down. I wrote that one down.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so I'm not saying I'm not going to read it. I'm just saying for the first time
I just want to get to the level of having a house manager.
Well, it's funny. Literally after that podcast, I went home and one of the suggested...
It's called a wife.
No.
You're paying her to answer the phone 2 days a week. She's the house manager from then after.
Next subject.
What's funny is after that podcast, I went home and like one of the first suggested videos I had on YouTube was had the E-Myth, like a YouTuber was talking about it.
Yep.
Like, my phone's listening to me everywhere.
Yeah.
Damn right it is.
Well, there's
listening to
a
you.
boatload of E-Myth books. They've got E-Myth books for all different businesses, right? They tailor the book for contractors and for, legal people and for office people and for data people and, all that kind of stuff. So
But they've always kind of been the branch of
this
the
guy,
original, right?
Well, this guy, you can kind of take it and put it into whatever line of work you're in. Like, this guy is a content creator, so he outsources all of his editing. So he hasn't edited one video. So what he says is, like, I take the 2 or 3 hours I would spend editing, and that's actually on the front end of idea creation and content creation.
Yeah.
So it's like, he has like a blog down with all the editing, so he just sends it off. He actually goes on Fiverr and just pays someone like $100, and they edit his video.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, like in the book, How to Buy Your Time Back, once you've bought all your time back, it's not like you're fucking off. It's not like you're just sitting on the couch eating Cheetos all day long watching TV.
No, it allows you to go into other business enterprises.
Yeah, well, you buy your time back so that you can then reinvest the time that you've now bought back onto the high value things in your business. So like in Austin's case, you got filming and you got editing. Mm-hmm. Well, if you can subcontract out the editing or buy your time back and have somebody else do editing, then that frees you up to film more. Hey, if you like what you're hearing on The Void and you want even more info, we just started a mentorship program specifically for trades professionals to start their business or to get their business to an incredibly healthy position. So if you'd like more info, click on the link in the description of this show.
Yeah.
Right? And so, it's different for every business out there, but you're basically buying back the inexpensive stuff.
Yeah.
And then that way you as the visionary of the business can spend time on the bigger picture stuff.
Or do other things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
In the business industry.
And buy it, like, because time is the most precious commodity in the world, that also includes time with your wife, time with your family, time with your kids. Right.
Yeah.
So
you can't buy back that time, but you can buy back other time so that you can make time for those things.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, I just lost.
There. Stop touching your mic.
I think my mic's, no, it's doing this on its own. I think my mic's getting ready to go out.
No, it's not your mic, it's the cable.
Well, okay, whatever.
Don't touch anything. Don't breathe on it too hard.
That's why you feel fulfilled spending, like, if you don't have a good grasp of your time, then you feel guilty when you take time away from the business and spend it with your family. Because you think, I should be spending this time on the business. I should be hustling and grinding, right? But if you've successfully bought your time back, then you can actually feel fulfilled knowing that you're providing jobs for other people and you've bought enough time back to spend time with your family.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between feeling fulfilled or feeling guilty with that time.
Yeah, and it's weird. We've talked about it a lot with me, but just like when you are in a hard-working industry for 20 years and then that just kind of starts to tail off or you start moving to something else, like, it's a mind fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like what you were just talking about. You're just like, man, I don't feel like it's kind of like imposter syndrome, like, right? You just don't feel like you deserve it almost.
Right.
Because you've just been so used to doing one thing for so long. But it's crazy because, like, with the Tradewinds guys, like, we'll talk to them and do all this, and the whole time I'm feeling like, I'm giving them so much value, and I know that I am, but still at the same time I'm like, I'm not working there. I don't have my wrenches out. I'm not doing it. So it's like there's this small piece of guilt, and then at the end of calls they're like, dude, thank you so much.
Right.
Like, they're grateful and they know that the value's there. It's convincing yourself that the value's there.
That's imposter syndrome is what that is. You don't.
That's what I just said.
You don't recognize the amount of value you're delivering.
Yeah,
Also
and it's and it's hard. It's a when we still have a couple of episodes to do, or training courses to do on the Tradewinds side, but we've talked about it on the show before. I didn't realize how hard some of that stuff can be to get over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you don't realize it's just been ingrained to you for so long that it's like, oh shit.
Most people never
Like, it's
get
hard
over it.
for me.
So
It's super hard for me.
most people never get over it, right? And that's why, like in plumbing companies, statistically, you'll never have a 4-truck company or a 5-truck company because it's like 5% of companies break the 3-truck level.
Yeah.
1% of companies break a 5-truck level, right? So that means 1 out of 100 plumbing companies has more than 5 trucks, right? So the reason why is your imposter syndrome says you're not worthy of a 5-truck company. And people
Yeah.
believe that.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
They shouldn't, right?
It never made sense to me.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to really make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not tooting my own horn by any means. I'm just like it just slapped me in the face. Like, holy shit, that is real.
Right.
Like that is a real thing that guys deal with.
Yeah.
And you know, we have guys like in trade winds, like Brandon's got, are they 7 trucks?
Yeah, I think so.
6 or 7 trucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like, holy shit. Doesn't bother him one bit.
Yeah. No,
He's like, yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
Yep. And that's
You know?
just everyone has different levels of limiting beliefs. And if
Yeah.
one person's limiting belief is, I don't know how I'm going to break 10 trucks, they're going to run right up to 10. And then they're just going to be stuck at that level of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And if somebody's like, I don't know how I'm going to break 30 trucks, well, then they're going to run to 30. One other thing to hit, though, like on how important it is to buy back your time and what you do with your time and whether you feel guilty about it or not. Victor Rancour, when he sold his business, he literally kind of went into like a month and a half of depression, right? And this goes to show you that when you're so focused on building a business and doing the tasks of the business, well, then he sells the business and he has nothing to do.
Comes to a screeching halt.
Right. What do I do with my time? And then he feels guilty. Right now, it's easy for us to be on this side of it and say, how do you feel guilty with that much money, right? Because he sold his business and he made good money on it. But still, just like what you were saying when we started the show, you were saying like it felt good to spend time at home and not feel guilty about it, right?
Yeah, it's the first time in 2 years.
Right. Well, if building
literally.
that business has been your identity for 5 straight years,
Yeah.
and then it's stripped away from you, and for a month, and like there's a massive adjustment period where it's like,
It's a life change.
what the fuck
Yeah.
do I do?
Well, too, like it's the conditioning is like what is work to you. That's why it's like you'll see guys like you're turning wrenches for 20 years. That's why it's like for me, video editing is work, but to someone else who turns wrenches, it's like, oh, that's nothing. It's just like work is different to everyone, and so it's like that conditioning of like it was awkward when at McDonald's when I went from crew to manager because you're in charge of the whole store, you know, and your tendency is like, oh, I'm just gonna stay in this spot, and you feel comfortable.
I would like to talk. I didn't get to talk to Victor a whole lot. Like I would say
he's a hard guy to talk to because his mind moves so fast.
Well,
and it makes him come off weird.
Well, he has ADHD, and it's okay.
100%.
But that's what drives. You know, we'll talk about something else for just a few minutes. ADHD and the diagnosis, quote unquote, of ADHD is horseshit. Like ADHD,
it's one of the greatest things ever.
People that can harness it and do good with it grow great businesses and do great things.
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Yeah.
Like they just do. Like it just is what it is. Like you have the ability to take on a lot, handle a lot, and get it done.
In business, you've got the top 2 key roles in business, and that's your visionary and your integrator. Okay? Your visionary is the one who comes up with all the wild and crazy ideas that are cutting edge and leading the market and breaking the mold, right? Your integrator is the guy who has to figure out how to do it all.
Yeah.
You want your visionary to have ADHD. It's bankruptcy if your integrator has ADHD.
Oh, yeah, it's
your
not
integrator
happening.
can't have ADHD,
No.
but you want your visionary to, because you want that out of the
part of
box
it.
thinking. You want that pulling ahead of like, that's fucking crazy. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And
how do we
I
make
wish
it happen?
I could.
I don't know.
I wish I could have like spent just a little bit more time with him, kind of. Yeah, and I'm sure our paths will cross again. It's there's no doubt. But just like what you were saying about like he went into depression, like for a month and a half, like just personally for a month and a half, I'm partying. Like if I get 40 million and then I'm like gonna figure out what I'm gonna do, but that's the difference. He was in depression because he was like, I have to do something right now.
Just purpose.
Yeah.
I have to do something right now.
Well, and
there was nothing for him to do.
Well,
and he
and
had to refine his focus and then move on. Hopefully, he buys Trade Winds in the Void for $20 million and we move on down the road. Because I know what I'm going to do. I'm just saying.
For him, it's a combination of ADHD, but then also he's an incredibly competitive person. And so he stocked his identity into his business and competing with all the other businesses in the nation, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to grow his business faster and bigger than anybody else and then sell it big,
it's
right?
weird. Like a lot of people that are in business and do that don't even know that they're competitive. They're like, no, I never played any sports. And then they get into that and then they're like, oh, fuck.
I'm kicking his ass.
I'm so competitive.
Yeah.
And then you're like, did you realize if you played adult softball, you would like be yelling at the other team and screaming and throwing balls at them?
Right.
Like what?
Well, so what's funny is now that he has the time, he's coaching his kids little league football, flag football.
Yeah. And he's probably losing his shit.
He got scolded by the parents for being too aggressive with the kids. And he's like, I'm training winners. We aren't giving out participation trophies. If your kids aren't on this team to win,
get the fuck
they can
out
go
of here
somewhere else. Right.
Dude. So last weekend, it's funny you bring this up. So Layla had her last league game. So she plays D1.
Yep.
After D1's ENCL, they can't even do ECNL, until next year. Like for her age, she's the top she can be.
Right.
So last weekend, they were playing their last game. This team comes from Omaha to be in this league, Omaha, Nebraska. I almost text the guys that are from. We have 3 guys in Trade Winds from Omaha. But so they're calling fouls and they're doing this and they're doing that. And this girl literally runs Layla over in the penalty box. She's trying to score, Layla's trying to defend.
Okay.
So runs her flat over. And the refs and I'm like, oh, that's a foul, and this mom over here is like, that's not a foul. She's playing the ball. I was like, she's playing the ball with her shoulder and her leg and her arm? Or like, what's she doing? And this mom keeps going on. I'm like, no, seriously, stop. And I'm like, okay, what? So I started getting loud. You know me.
Yeah.
So I'm getting loud, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty loud. And my dad's there. My dad's been kind of coming to games, he's like, hey, dude, like, relax. And Janine's on one side, my dad's on the other. He's like, hey, I was like, dude, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
I was like, this ain't participation bullshit. I look over, there's a dad on the other team sitting in a chair by himself, and he's like staring me down.
Yeah.
I look right at him, I was like, dude, you got a fucking problem?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal? And he just turns and he shakes his head, and I was like, yeah, just shake it off, dude. I was like, that's the problem. No one wants to ever fucking speak up.
Well,
and that shit fucking drives me insane. We are literally, like you were saying with what Victor was saying, we're trying to raise fucking winners here.
Yeah.
This Generation X, everyone says we're millennials, we're Xers.
Yeah.
They said we were Xers when we were
We're
in like
hybrid.
third grade.
Millennials.
They were like, no, you're an Xer. And I was like, okay. So I've been an Xer. We're trying to change the mentality of participation trophy bullshit. Like, look, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at all these parents, and I'm old. People don't know I'm older. Like most of the kids that, we play with, their parents are probably like 33, 34, 35.
And you look really young for your age.
And I'm 42.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, we're raising fucking winners.
Yeah.
We're not raising losers. And her coach, like, he's like, dude, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he'll whisper, like he'll come over and be like, hey, yeah, I get it. And I'm like, man, fuck these people.
And some of it, like with social media and everything else, they kind of glamorize. Well, they highlight. They try to paint the picture that it's a disgrace to get ejected from a little league game for yelling at the ump. And I'm going to say for the most part, it probably is. 80% of the time, if you're yelling at the ump or the ref, or what do you call them in soccer? Is it a ref?
Yeah, they have refs and they have side judges. I will say this, like, so the kids that ref and side judge, like at her level, they're like 14 and 15.
Yeah.
And so when parents yell at them, I yell at the parents. I'm like, dude, yeah, they fucked up. They're kids too.
Yeah.
Like, it's different.
Right.
But like when they're grown umps,
yeah,
like at a baseball game, it's like if they can't handle it, then
Right.
fuck, you shouldn't be out here.
Well, and I mean, it's been a few years since our kids were in baseball, but like where we would draw the line,
They need
like,
to be in some more sports, by the way.
You understand that like a lot of times the umps in baseball are kids and all that stuff, right? So you're going to cut them some slack. However, when their poor job interferes with teaching the kids the fundamentals of the game, that's where like we would draw the line, and we would have conversations with the umps and all of that kind of stuff. We'd never yell at the umps. I think there was only one time where we yelled at the umps, but it was because the umps kind of started it. The umps were kind of doing this whole thing of like, you can't talk to us. Like,
yes, we
we're
can.
calling a game. It's like, no, we can absolutely talk to you because we've instructed our kids that this is the rule, and now you've, called them out because it's
a different
rule. So
Yeah.
we have to have a conversation.
Yeah. And
because we've trained our kids to do this,
Yeah, and I will yell like this was 3 games ago. I'm sitting down watching the game, and they call offsides, and it's clearly not offsides by like 10 feet. And I'll say something like, "Hey, look, the rule is this."
Yeah.
Like, I understand you guys are. What are you doing? Like, I'll say, but I won't be like, I won't berate them.
No,
they're kids.
Well,
they're fucking kids out there, and they don't make a lot of money. They're doing it to facilitate the sport and facilitate what's going on.
Yep.
So I try not to like get too overwhelmed with what's going on. It's the other parents that make me literally want to snap necks.
Yep.
Like, I can't believe so she's only been playing for like 3.5 years. I'm surprised that I haven't fought another parent yet.
Yeah. So Grant.
Don't say, yeah.
No, I'm
seriously.
surprised you haven't either.
I'm 100% surprised.
Grant tried tackle football for a little while.
This year or last year?
This
was it last year?
I think last year.
I think it was last year, 2 years ago.
Maybe even 2 seasons ago.
I think it was 2 seasons ago.
Tried tackle football. Didn't know what he was doing beforehand. Grant doesn't do all that well in team sports. And so...
Get that shithead into some tennis.
Well, that's why I'm getting him into drums.
I'm going to buy that kid a drum set. You think it's funny? You wait till Christmas Eve, and there's a fucking drum set down there.
I'm game.
I'm setting it up in the living room, and I'm screwing it down to the floor.
I can think of
not moving.
I can think of 3 occasions where I've texted Danielle pictures of drum sets for sale on Marketplace, and she's like, no. And I'm like, won't you be pissed if it just shows up at our house?
Dude, you could put... If you tell me, hey, you have to take this and say it was you, I will 100% do it.
I'll take that. I'll land on that
I
grenade.
will 100% take that fall.
So he going through practice, we could tell it was going to be a struggle. And then we did, I think, 2 games. In the first game, he didn't get to play much at all because he wasn't doing very well in practice. And so we talked him up and got him to do really...
because he was new, right? Yeah.
And he didn't even know the game all that well, right?
Yeah, you got to learn it.
So
right?
we got him to really invest himself in practice, and then he got to see some playing time in the next game. Well, our friends also had a son on the team, and we were at one of the games, and our friend's kid, like... the play went off to one side of the field, and some bigger football player on the other team started like literally punching our friend's kid.
I like it.
Blocked him hard, got him on the ground, and then instead of just kind of holding him on the ground to keep him from interfering with the play, he was literally punching him, right?
I like it.
And so a couple of people started hooping and hollering, and this was happening 10 feet from a ref.
Yeah.
But the ref wasn't looking at it.
Yeah.
And so a couple of people started hooting and hollering, and our friends started like, ref, this is going on right, and it's still happening. And he's like, ref, this is going on like right next to you.
Yeah.
And so the ref like glances at it for a second and then focuses on the play. Well, my friend.
Yeah. Is he like me? Lost his shit.
He went off on the ref,
Yeah.
And I mean, because the kids are literally fighting on the field.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, when the kids are getting hurt, like I have said, before, like, they won't call fouls or whatever, and then it kind of it escalates. Even in girls soccer, like, it escalates.
Yeah.
They start kicking each other in the shin.
And girls are probably meaner than boys, to be honest with you.
They're fucking mean as shit, dude.
Yeah.
They're pulling hair. They're pushing each other down.
Girls have a level of vindictive that boys don't have.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Like, so you yell at her, hey, if you don't get this under control, there's going to be a bloodbath out here.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah. And if I remember correctly,
it's fucking true.
There was some stuff leading up to it where the ref was kind of like, hey, keep an eye on this. This is building, and the ref was ignoring it, and then it got to where they were actually throwing punches.
So what'd your friend do?
And so he started, chewing out the ref, and like, he said like, hey, just like what I said, here it is happening again, and the ref like glanced at it and looked away, and the kid throws a couple more punches, And so my friend gets up and like walks right up to the sideline, and he's like, if you don't fucking do something about this, I'm going to go out there and break that shit up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm cool with letting the kids, play the game and everything else, but at the point where kids are getting hurt, and they're getting, it's not getting hurt accidentally, it's getting hurt because you're not doing your job. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So of course he throws a flag and like warns the stands. They don't do it through the coaches, right? Like,
it's bullshit.
You got to control your parents and all this stuff. And so that, of course, my friend's like friends with the coaches.
Yeah.
And so the coaches are like, we'll control him, but you do need to do a better job of all this stuff. And then my friend pipes up again and he's like, they ain't fucking controlling me. If that kid punches my son one more time, I'm kicking your ass. And of course, now you're making a threat to a ref, so he gets ejected.
See, and that's like
all of that shit.
Yeah, like what I do is I would, in that situation, I'd go out there and I'd say, whose fucking kid is this?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'd be like, brace yourself, bro.
Yeah.
I'm coming up the fucking stands right now.
Yeah.
I'll do one more. Like,
Your kid fucking hits my kid again, I'm gonna fucking hit you.
And
like that's just what happens.
It's one thing to like get into a verbal argument over them calling balls or strikes or something like that.
Yeah, that's different than when the kids are getting hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's
100% different.
That's what I was going with this.
Yeah,
Like
it's 100% different, man.
They've tried to paint these umps and refs like they're 100% innocent in all of this when they are in charge of player safety, and that's usually when player safety is at stake. That's usually where it's okay to lose your temper, and you're not gonna get looked down upon for getting kicked out of the game for yelling at a ref because player safety was at stake.
And
like, I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I will too. The thing about soccer, like soccer's different. But when the other parents, and I love that it's always the women. They will run their mouths because they know that no one will say anything, and you'll look over. And it's always a husband and wife.
Yep.
And the husband will not even look over. Like, I'll be yelling, and then he'll just be like this, like stone cold for those of you that are on YouTube. Like, he'll just be looking stone cold. He won't look over.
I can't.
He won't even fucking side eye. Because I'll be yelling. I'll be like, hey.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Like, I'm talking serious. Like, Janine's elbowing me the whole time. Like, grabbing. She's like, hey. I was like, and I'll tell her. I'll be like, babe, this ain't fucking happening on my watch.
Yeah.
Like, she knows. And it's weird. Like, so when she first got into really competitive soccer, like Janine was really hard on me. Like, you can't say anything. But now she's kind of like she's
elbowing. Say anything about that?
Yeah, it's like, are you gonna fucking say it? And I'm like, fucking I am. And my dad. So at the game, my dad's like, hey, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, Dad.
Yeah.
That's why me and you aren't the same, bro. I will fuck all these people up.
The reason
that's what will happen.
The reason why people are like that is because they've seen a couple of viral videos where umps are taking some unnecessary heat. And so they think if you give the ump heat, you're going to be on a viral video. Well, sometimes the umps need it. Yeah. Right?
And I don't give the ump a lot of heat. Like, I'll say the worst thing I've ever said to a ump or a ref is like, dude, you either got to call it both fucking ways or not at all.
Right.
Or I'll say, hey, that's not offsides. If the side judge don't fucking know, you got to tell him.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst thing I've ever said to a ref.
Yep.
But parent-wise, I will eat a parent's fucking ass on the sidelines and not give two shits.
I told you the story about how Danielle got kicked out of a baseball game once.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an ump at all.
You know what's fucking crazy is like Danielle and I are probably like more kindred spirits than like you and 100%. I. Like, she's yelling at motherfuckers like, what are you gonna do?
Like, you guys can't go together to a game.
Oh my god. If Danielle, look, if our kids,
you know what needs to happen. Me and Danielle and you and Janine need to go to a Chiefs game together.
No.
They have actual police there. That would not go.
No, just say some fucking, like, some weird thing happened and Grant and Layla, so they're the same age. Grant and Layla are the same age.
Yeah.
If for some reason they were like on the same team of a sporting event and then all four of us went, that's a disaster.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Like, when there's a parent talking shit and then there's a bad reffing, and then her and I are like, I'm firing her up. That's bad.
And Daniel's getting like
someone's going to fucking jail.
I can't remember the exact parameters.
Someone's going to fucking jail. Dude.
I can't remember what caused it with Danielle. Something about the refs not calling something, and then they didn't call it like repeatedly. And so the other team, there was a mom on the other team was
Yeah,
like, well,
when
if
the
they're
other
not
mom-
calling it, just
Yeah.
keep doing it.
Yeah, when
And
the other team's parents start talking shit,
Yeah.
that's the worst. Because
And-
you're like, look, you fat fucking single bitch.
so Danielle
you get
started
your fucking
yelling at
ass
her.
on down the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that other mom was instigating the kids,
Yeah.
and so Danielle started yelling at her to like leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
Well, then the other mom called Danielle a bitch, and that's not what you do with a redhead. Like that just doesn't stop. That's like telling a
That's
woman
like-
to chill out.
That's
right?
if you tell a redhead to stop, that's basically like throwing gasoline on a fire.
yeah.
And then
so
next thing you know, she's stabbing you.
Danielle and this, like, I'm
You're
having to
getting
kind of
stabbed.
hold Danielle back, and she's going back and forth with this lady.
You're
and then,
so much like if Danielle was my wife and that's happening, I'm like, babe, fuck her up. Go. I'm letting her
Well,
go. I'm like, babe, fuck her up.
I'm
Let's see
trying
what
to
happens.
not get my wife arrested.
No!
you know?
You're catching
You
her.
want something fun to happen or not? Let her go, bitch.
Well-
babe, if you punch her 5 times, I'll give you $1,000.
So
like
then-
just let her fly.
So then this
catch
dude
her,
like
push her
steps
back
in.
in.
Drink this vodka and this Red Bull. Fuck that bitch up.
Yeah, so then this dude steps in to try to stop stuff, and Danielle like starts cussing at the dude. Like,
Yeah.
well, it turns out the dude was the league commissioner.
Fucking who
And so
cares,
he
man?
booted her from the field, and booted the other mom too. But it was like, well, that was coming.
Did he just walk to the top of the staircases and be like, "Look,
Yeah.
these bitches got to get out of here"?
That's
like,
a thing that happened.
I feel like Mitch, you just like
Play ball.
you just kind of
Play
start
ball.
walking. You kind of just you see him stand up. Like, I'm just gonna start walking because
Yeah.
I know what's coming.
Well, I didn't even know the dude was the league commissioner either. He
That's
wasn't-
Mitch. Mitch is very.
I used to be really passive. I'm not anymore. Now
Yes, you are.
Not nearly as much as I used to be.
When was the last time you punched somebody?
Well, he almost fought that 14.
there's a
Never.
difference between
Never.
being passive
Never.
and punching
The
people.
answer's fucking never.
I mean, he almost fought that go-karting 14-year-old.
Yeah, he almost punched a 14-year-old kid in the face.
I did not almost fight anybody
That
in a
was an
go-kart.
exaggeration. He mildly yelled at a 14.
No, I aggressively yelled at the
Aggressively
kid.
yelled.
It
Oh
was,
God,
it was aggressive.
That 14-year-old
But there was
had
no
it
punches about
had
coming.
it coming.
Hey, are we
Oh
going to
my
talk
God.
anything business, or are we just going to?
That is business.
That
I
is
mean, it kind of
business.
is, right? It's
That's
holding
kind
people
of-
accountable.
Yeah, accountable.
That's today's show topic.
Okay. Hey,
Is-
wait. Everyone stop. Everyone stop. Mitch, on with the show topics.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
There you go. Let's see what you got. Sorry.
As we alluded to last episode, today's show topic is push your employees, pull your employees, or hold them accountable.
It's all the same thing, but okay, go ahead.
Just before we get into that, we got 2 things we need to hit. Austin did pass the test, and when he snuck out for a pee break during the last episode, he
Wait.
did.
It's like, what the fuck are you
this was
talking
like
about?
less than 24 hours later. He texted Dave and I the
He
word
did text me.
ostrich.
He did text me
Yeah.
ostrich. Dude,
So-
I was working. I laughed out loud.
I laughed too. I'm like, holy
I
shit,
was
he
at the
got it.
store. I wasn't working. I was at the
Yep.
store and I laughed out loud.
I think a weak bladder,
shit.
but an amazing editor. So
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say.
And then on our Void Facebook page,
Okay, awesome editor.
Whenever he brought it up, like we have 2 things to hit. Austin, I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
they're gonna hit me.
on our Void Facebook page, we have not been all that active on that page, and I apologize for that. So
First
right now,
off, that's on you.
that's all me. I
You're
know.
a marketer. You're
So,
our marketer. I don't know what to say.
I made a post 2 days ago on our Void Facebook
Everyone
page.
right now is like,
and-
what's Dave even fucking do then?
Yeah, he's the color commentator.
He's getting firewood.
I'm getting paid and writing checks, bitch.
I put a post out there saying, let's have some fun. We'll answer any questions you have. Ask the question in the comments and we'll answer it on the show.
Did anyone reply?
Well, the Facebook kind of throttled the thing down because we haven't been all that active. And if you were in Tradewinds, you would understand the mechanics of how social media works. And because the post didn't do well in the first 30 seconds of being posted, Facebook kind of kills it. So it only got 1 reaction and 1 comment. But we're going to go ahead and follow through with our end of the deal.
What was the comment?
Andrew Powell from State Line Door and Lift
Fucking Andrew.
says, who can carry 50-pound bags of dog food the furthest, me or David?
Oh, it's me.
I'm going to say 100% it's David because he is the most stubborn son of a bitch ever.
I was gonna say,
And
'cause my
he will
cardio
Monty
is-
Python this bullshit to where his arm falls off and he'll say it's only a flesh wound, and he'll stack the dog food on his head.
Is it going to be timed? Or is it like you could run
It's
for
just
5 minutes
who
and then
can
just
carry
take
it
as
the farthest.
take as long as it
I'm
break
giving you
as
the
you
win
can?
on this one. It's David.
we have to do this
Because you're stubborn and my time's more valuable than carrying 50-pound bags of dog
you're
food.
gonna
First off,
You outsource
I
it.
thought when you
Yeah.
said that, I thought Mitch has 2 50-pound bags and we're about to go outside.
No.
Oh, well, fuck off.
Is that what you do? Like if Danielle ever
Dude,
messages
we're doing it.
If-
We're doing it. We're going to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to do it. Is it going to be a foot
So
race?
we need-
So he said the furthest?
Yeah.
So is it going to be like,
Is this?
who can go the furthest in 1 minute?
I think it's
Or
just
is
the
it-
furthest. There's no time referenced in the question.
Dude, I bet I could go a mile.
I feel like
Like, that's a long fucking ways, dude.
instead of doing the second podcast, we should just go up to Walmart and get two
So
52
how does
bags.
this work? Do you do it and then I do it and then we
No, we
discover
go
each
side by
other's
side.
results? Or
No,
do
we
it
go side
together?
by side.
So we need 4 50-pound bags of dog food.
Yes.
Or-
Man,
Well, he
the
has to
real
carry 2. I have to carry 2.
the real
Two.
question is, how do you carry it?
Well,
Do you backpack it?
I don't know.
Do you shoulder?
I mean, that's 100 pounds of dog food.
You should get
That's
like,
a lot
Where
of
do you
fucking.
find 50-pound bags of dog food?
Oh,
my
dude, they
dogs
sell
are-
them at Walmart. They sell
52
them at
pounds
Walmart.
at like Price Hopper, Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
That's like
Really?
a standard.
Our
Yeah.
dog food comes in 30-pound bags.
The biggest bag you can get's a 50-pound bag.
That's what we get with 52.
Fucking Andrew.
Good
God
God.
damn it, dude.
Yeah, I know.
He couldn't have said 50. Like, he couldn't have said 50-pound. He had to say 2
50-pound bags of dog
50-pound.
food, the furthest.
We're doing it.
Hey, Andrew, because I know you listen to the show, if you see 2 dumbasses carrying 50-pound bags of dog food down Adams Dairy Parkway, just know you're responsible for this, by the way.
The problem is we're going to have to do like, we'll probably have to do it at like a track.
I got a 3-mile route from my house.
To what?
Why? There's a point
The
that
real
I can
problem
walk
is
and then come back, and it's 3 miles.
He has to fucking video it.
That's fine. I can just take the drone.
It doesn't.
I'm just.
He'll be dead in 5 minutes.
I'm like using the
The
drone
drone will be
chase.
dead in 5 minutes.
50. So 100 pounds for you, 100 pounds for me. We're gonna make him carry a 25 in the
Yeah, well,
camera.
it'll be funny.
And we'll see who
His
fucking
shoulder rig weighs
dies.
25.
We'll see who
Yes.
fucking dies first.
You know who like it'd be funny.
You're
is
right
if
though.
you-
I will not. I will either die out there or win.
be
You're
funny.
100%
Yeah.
right. I will either die out there or win.
Yeah, David's more stubborn than I am.
You should get Dave like don't tell him the route and not make it like a complete circle. So he's gonna carry
That's
it
dark.
like 3 miles.
That's fucking dark.
He's gonna
We're
do,
doing
like-
it.
All right.
We'll do it.
I,
We'll do it.
I do wonder if bitch like if his wife ever messages him on Facebook and it's like a mean message. Well, sorry, Facebook was throttling that message.
God, I don't
It
know.
didn't come
Mitch has been
through."
working out for like 2 fucking years. You got to
Yeah,
give me at least
that's
a week.
weightlifting. That's not cardio
You got to
and
give me
endurance.
at least a week. Like I gotta.
It'll be a week because I'm leaving town in a couple days.
Oh, okay. So when
So-
you get back, we'll do it when you get back.
All right.
I'll get some cool aerial shots and then because
God
Dave will
damn
be
it.
way
You don't
ahead.
need we don't need a video. We just need a couple of photos and then announce the winner.
No, it'd be fun to video
It's
it.
just like
Yeah.
last episode where we talked about a marathon and they show you the first few seconds, they show you the last few seconds, they show
I
you
think
a
we
shot
should
in
do
the middle.
it. Well, no.
do it. I'm game.
it's
We'll
not gonna
video
be
it.
like
It'll be
it's-
fun.
It won't be like a straight like.
And
you
then
know,
we'll donate the dog food to somebody that needs it. How about that?
We'll donate the dog
It's a
food
dog.
to people for the Smedley pet dogs, fixed pipes, whatever bullshit.
I'm game.
That you scan. Trade
I
winds
need
will
to
buy.
go buy 200 pounds of dog
Are you just
food.
gonna-
Trade winds will buy the dog food, and then we'll donate it to Smedley Plumbing.
There
How
we
about
go.
that?
just going to start up its own dog charity things. I mean, they got the fixed pipes pet dogs.
Yeah,
First off, the Void and Trade Winds things, that's Smedley.
That's
I
all
don't
me.
care.
I don't know what we're gonna do
But
there.
Trade Winds and the Void will buy the dog food this time,
All right.
and we'll donate to a shelter afterwards.
Stay
already-
tuned for the
That'll
results
be-
on that.
I already have all the audio.
That'll
for
be a
it.
lot of fun.
Yep.
That'll be a lot of fun. Okay, are we going to actually do the show now?
Yeah, let's get on.
It's been
We're like 40 minutes in, so might as
42
well.
minutes.
So today's topic is push your employees, pull your employees, or hold them accountable. And we have not rehearsed any of this other than the title of the show. So this will be interesting. David's half drunk, so this will be even more
I'm
interesting.
telling you, I had a great day today, man.
Yeah, it's because you got one off
No, it's
But-
because I sat in the hot tub for 45 minutes.
and then got one off. You're going to have to clean that hot tub filter pretty well.
Stop it. Stop it.
But
That's dark, dude.
there are times as a leader of people where you need to push your employees, where you need to pull your employees, and where you need to hold your employees accountable. So let's dive into each of these
Go
and
ahead,
see
man.
where they go. So
Let me see what you want to talk about.
people are capable of a hell of a lot more than they think they are. And so as their leader, it's your job to push them to their limits and even past their limits a little bit, right? They don't know their limits until they go past them. I used to do a little bit of motorcycle racing, and as you're developing as a motorcycle rider, you don't know what the limits of the motorcycle are yet, right? And the limits are ever changing based off of the setup of the motorcycle and the skill level of the rider. So you take a non-skilled rider and put them on a poorly set up motorcycle, and the limits they're still above what you think you can do, but the limits are low, right?
Yeah.
And then as you increase your skill level and you increase your knowledge of how to set up a motorcycle, the limits now increase. And so it's an ever-changing dichotomy of, are we pushing the limits of myself or the motorcycle or both? And then once we feel like we're anywhere near the limits, what needs to expand? Is it my personal limits need to expand? Is it my trust level in the motorcycle needs to expand? Is it the setup of the motorcycle? Does the setup need to be better, right? And it's a balancing act between all of that. Well, what happens when you run past the limits on a motorcycle?
Crash.
You crash and burn, right? So when you're racing a motorcycle, literally the job is to push the motorcycle to its limit.
Your job is to push it until it gives way.
Right.
Like you either crash or you run the fastest time that thing's capable of running.
Right. And so...
Or corner as hard as that thing's capable of cornering.
Yeah. And so you're constantly... Like, you don't want to go blow past the limit, which I've done, right? But you want to push the limit, right? You want to expand your horizons.
Yeah, you want to get on that line is not necessarily black and white. There's a gray area there. You want to be in the gray area.
Yeah. I can remember a time...
As you're pushing.
I can remember a time where I was going around a racetrack in Hallett, Oklahoma, and I was on a bone stock motorcycle. It had slightly upgraded tires, but everything else was bone stock. We adjusted the stock suspension the best we could, but here I am going around the track, and I'm doing fairly decent times, and I'm in the advanced group on a bone stock motorcycle. So
is this your yellow bike?
It started out yellow. Yeah. So
I wrecked that bike.
Yeah. And so I'm going around the track and I'm doing pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Well, then we started realizing that there's some limits to the motorcycle.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I was dragging feet and foot pegs and corners and like when you're racing sport bikes, the first thing you're going to drag is your knee because you stick it way out there to find the ground and feel it.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, you hang off the inside of the motorcycle and you stick your knee out there so you can feel the ground without looking at the ground. Your knee is a gauge for how far you're leaned over.
Yeah.
And so that allows your eyes to stay focused on where you're going, and it's
another sense.
Yeah,
it's a third eye.
You can get a response from your knee about how far you're leaned over, right? Well, I was leaning over far enough that my toes started dragging on the ground.
Yeah,
and
it's because the bike had really great tires on it.
Yeah,
right?
Well, when your toes drag, the very next thing to start dragging is hard parts that aren't flexible, and that's scary, right?
Pegs.
So the next thing I got was different foot pegs that raised up a little bit higher so they didn't drag as early. And I still started dragging those. And so we started to realize that I'm kind of...
The suspension's...
The suspension was now the weakest link.
It was too soft for you at the speed you were running.
At the speeds I was running,
so
right?
if you were to run at a higher speed, per se, you don't lean over as far.
Well, not necessarily there. So what the next step was I got upgraded suspension.
Does it hold you higher off the ground?
That raised the bike off the ground, right? And so now you have a little bit more clearance.
So it doesn't compress as hard when you're leaned over that far.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it allows you to brake harder in the corners and get on the gas sooner because the suspension is now more rigid, right?
You're off the ground. Gotcha.
Well, my first session out on this new suspension. I'm totally new to suspension. Same bike.
New suspension.
My first session out, I'm like, this is scary as fuck. I don't feel right. The bike's sliding all over the place. It just doesn't.
Well, it's because your first time.
It's my first time. So the guy that set my suspension up,
real stiff.
I had a high level of trust in my mechanic. And so at this time, I worked at a motorcycle dealership. And the mechanic of the dealership is the one who got my suspension all set up. And so I come back in from that first session and I'm like, I don't like it. This was the worst decision ever. Shouldn't have done it. I'm not enjoying it, right? And he says, go give it another session. So I go give it another session. I'm not changing anything. I'm just operating out of fear. and my times are slower than they were with my factory suspension and everything else.
Yeah. So you don't trust it.
And so I come back in from that second session, and he says, "You're not going fast enough." And if you're in any kind of racing, they have braking markers. They usually have numbers painted on the ground, especially off the straightaway.
Everyone wonders why that the checkered is red and white going into a corner. Those are for braking / knowing where you're at markers.
Yeah, some of them are references.
Yeah.
Some guys will actually put stuff on the track.
Yeah.
Some tracks will have numbers like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 going into turn 1.
Right.
And they're hitting the brakes at turn 1, or they're hitting the brakes at number 1.
Yeah.
And or they're letting off the gas at number 1 and hitting the brakes at number 3, or whatever the case may be. And so, I am telling him that my braking points have pushed way back. I'm braking earlier than I was before and all this stuff.
Because you're scared.
Because I'm scared.
Yeah.
And so he says, "We've made adjustments to your bike. It now is better. Do not hit the brakes." And like my previous braking point was number 1.
Yeah.
The first braking point you come to. He says, "Do not hit the brakes until halfway between 2 and 3.
And you're like, oh, fuck.
And I'm like, there's no fucking way this is happening.
You're like, yeah, dude, do it.
Well, going into turn 1, there's plenty of grass. Like if you botch it and you get scared and you panic, you have hundreds of yards to recover.
To lay the block down.
Well, you don't even lay it down. You just drive through a grass field for 100 yards.
You can just stand it up and
not
have to take the corner.
And just go through the field.
Okay.
And it's smooth and it's literally set up.
It's
to
for
bail.
a bailout.
Yeah.
It's a bailout corner.
And so I'm going into turn 1 and I'm like, this motherfucker. Like, no fucking way. Well, I trust him. And so I get on the brakes at 2.5, which I'd never ever done before, and I am scared fucking shitless. I get on the brakes and the bike felt better than it ever had. I had to get on the brakes harder.
Yeah.
Because I'm braking later, which means so if you go from
so that compression's starting to push down later, but more aggressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but it's stiffer.
So the thing that compounds this is you're on the gas longer.
Yeah.
You're on the gas through the whole straightaway. So it's not like you're off the gas and coasting longer.
No.
You're on the gas longer.
Yeah.
So instead of getting on the, and this is a
so instead of doing, just for reference, instead of doing 100, you're doing 120 because you've been on the gas longer.
Well,
and now you've got to hit the brakes harder.
Yeah, for me, it was on my old setup, I was going into turn 1 at 110 miles an hour and then getting on the brakes.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm going into turn 1 at 130.
Yeah.
And it's
That's crazy. I was so close.
Fucking way, right? So I get on the brakes and I'm like, I'm ready to bail. I'm not even looking ahead in the corner, which is what you should be doing. I'm looking at my bailout.
You're looking
point.
at bailout.
But then all of a sudden I feel the brakes feel right. And it just felt good and everything stuck. And so then I immediately take my attention off of the bailout point and look ahead in the corner and make turn 1.
And come out and then get on the gas
and then
again.
get on the gas. And at this particular racetrack, after you go through turn 1, you go up over a hill. And when you go up over this hill,
do you have to turn immediately, or is it a flat hill?
No, you have a long straightaway after the hill. Gotcha. But if you're on the gas enough, if you're on a 1,000cc motorcycle, you'll wheelie over the hill. If you're on a 600 and you're riding it like you should, you'll wheelie over the hill. First time ever I wheelied over the hill on the second straightaway.
And then set that thing down.
I was able to carry that corner with so much more speed.
Do 150.
So from that point on, I was sold, right? But ultimately, the whole reason for that story was, as we expand our capabilities, we need to also expand our beliefs, right? Before that, I knew that I had to get on the brakes by braking point number 1.
Yeah.
After that, and I expanded my capabilities in the mechanical function of the bike, I knew that I had to get on the brakes by braking point 2.5. So totally changed the game. It added several hundred feet to my on the gas, right?
Yeah.
And the longer you're on the gas, the more you're going to win races. And so, that's just a parallel to that. But ultimately, as we develop as people and as our jobs as leader to develop people, sometimes we have to push people to their limits. Sometimes we have to pull people up out of bad places. And sometimes we just need to hold people accountable, right?
Well, and what we're getting at here is like, so the mechanic that was working on your bike, he was pushing and pulling you, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's pulling you up from, hey, This isn't despair. We're not going back to your old setup. It's fine. But he's pushing you at the same time. Hey, dude, you're not going fast enough.
Right.
Like, basically, he's saying, you ain't got the balls. Let's go. You've got to get to this next level.
Well,
and if he hadn't done that, everything, all the suspension change would have been for naught.
Right.
Like, it would have been
taken me a
worthless.
step back, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you drive an exotic car at 30 miles an hour,
Don't
it
get
is
me
the
started.
shittiest drive ever.
God, this
Right? Exotic cars aren't meant to drive 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They're meant to drive fast, right? And
Yeah.
so basically upgrading the motorcycle suspension made it a little bit more exotic, and it was only enjoyable at higher speeds after that.
It's meant to be at another level.
It's purpose built.
It's crazy. So Janine's Camaro, her 68, right?
Yeah.
It's got a 4-speed Muncie in it. That car, and like I'm beating this into her brain all the time. Babe, that car wants to accelerate.
Yeah, you're driving it too slow.
That car.
All right, so you've newly started your company and you're trying to pinch pennies. However, you don't realize the biggest thing that's hurting you right now is not gathering all of your information into one spot and making it super efficient for you to use. So the answer is Field Pulse. It gets you off of paper tickets. It gets you off of all of that crazy office work at the end of the day and reconciling all that stuff. And it lets you organize everything with ease. It puts it all into the computer. It actually puts it all into the cloud. So it's not even putting it on your computer. And it lets you organize your customers. It lets you organize all of your service calls. Heck, it'll even route you to your service call. And the best part is, even after all of that, you'll probably realize about a 100% growth in your business just in the first year of using Field Pulse. So if you'd like to check out Field Pulse and see what great looks like, click on the link in the description of this show.
The motor and transmission want to accelerate. The car is built to, like, it's primitive enough that it is built to accelerate, shift, accelerate.
Yep.
Accelerate, shift, accelerate. Okay, that's what the car's for. It wants to be running at 20. If you're cruising, it wants to be running 2,800 RPMs.
Yeah.
That's just what. It's not a new car that when you get on the highway, it's turning 1,100.
Yeah.
And keep it maintaining. No, it wants to be fucking driven.
Yeah.
So like we'll go out and we'll get in the car and I'm like, and I'll drive the dog shit out of it. I'm like, babe, do you feel how
it's actually smoother when you drive it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's smoother.
Yep.
Like it's literally looking you in the face and saying, fucking drive me.
Yep.
Drive me.
Yep.
This is what I'm meant to do.
Yep.
And she's trying to baby, and I'm like, babe, you can't do that. It's a 4-speed fucking Muncie. You gotta drive it.
Yep.
It wants to be driven.
Yep.
Kinda
And sometimes, like, sorry, Austin.
No, you're fine, I'm sorry.
Like, high performance individuals in your business, guys that I'm going to use a new construction term here, guys that are plumbing new construction guys or HVAC or electrical guys that are full of piss and vinegar, that want to get out there. They got attitude that no one wants to fucking talk to them because they're kind of edgy and assholes. There's a place for those men.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I have always been one of those people. When you push me and I'm driven, no one can fucking stop me.
Right.
Like, and it seems so dumb. Like, I'm not fighting people in the Bronx. It's different.
Right.
But when you get out there and I'm allowed to roll and run and fucking be on my own.
Yep.
No one does more work or completes work faster or better than I am.
Yep.
Okay. There are guys in the industry, like, we are a little fewer and farther between than we used to be.
Yep.
But they're out there. Like, that's what they need. They want to be fucking driven hard. It's just like the bike. It's just like the car. This is a perfect example of they need to be pushed and they need to be driven.
Yep.
Like, it's reality.
Ironically,
we're all different.
One of my friends just posted on Facebook today. He says, I can do anything as long as there is a looming deadline with serious consequences. And I read that, and the first thing I thought of was that's motherfucking Dave.
That's
right there.
me. That's fucking
You
me.
give
100%.
Dave a looming deadline and serious consequences, and he'll move mountains.
There is something different between, and I'm gonna like paint myself into a corner here a little bit, but like there is something different with guys like me that need a little bit of push.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like they need it and they thrive on it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we're talking about here. Like,
Right.
Like
Push 'em
they
or
just
pull 'em.
need, sometimes guys need, gals too, they need someone to just give them a little bit of push. If you push them too hard, we're going to fucking beat your ass.
Well-
but sometimes they need just a little bit of edge and a little bit of go. And like the real definition between like real superheroes in the business is they can give themselves that push. Like I can
That's
give,
few and far between.
I can give myself that push. Like
Right.
I know, like I don't need someone, snapping the whip, you know?
Right.
Like I can go out there and go, I know I have to get this done. I got to get it going. And I'm just going to do it.
Right.
You know, I don't need necessarily a boss pushing me, but a lot of those guys, man, you just give them a little bit of push, a little bit of, hey, dude,
Yeah.
you get this fucking done, I'll give you $100. Or sometimes go out there and say, I bet you can't get this done in a
Right.
day.
Some of it's, I bet you can't get it done.
Yeah, and you want to bet $50? You're
Right.
losing that $50 because that guy's going to fucking get it done.
Right.
But you have to know, who those individuals are. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone's like. A lot of people fold.
Yep.
They just fucking crumble. They're like, oh God, it's so hard on me. It's so much pressure,
Right.
and they can't handle it.
So the pushing and pulling, right? In the motorcycle reference, he was pushing me to trust the bike, right?
Right.
Where the pulling would come from is there was one race that we went to, or one track that we went to, where I think it was probably the second track we went to after my newer setup. And I was all cocky and confident now at this newer setup. But it was one of my first times it was the first time at this newer track, right?
So not at Oklahoma. Where was the other one?
I
that
want to
Indy?
say this one would have been Indiana or something.
I was gonna say it was. You guys went to Oklahoma, Indiana, and was
Yeah.
there one in Nebraska?
Yeah, there was one, Hastings, Nebraska. We went there quite a bit too.
Yeah. Those were
but-
your three big ones you guys went to, I think.
But I think this one was in Indiana. And
Maybe we should start going again.
I wouldn't mind it.
I got nothing to lose.
These we were at
I'm
this
over
newer
it.
track, and I go out for the first session and just kind of understanding what happens where on the track. And so the second session, I'm ready to push it a little bit, right?
It's hard to memorize those tracks too.
Well, and this one, ultimately, it was just like a goof. Like I thought I could get on the brakes at this point in this corner. It's only my second time ever on the track, and I got on the brakes a little too hard, and my tires were a little too cold. It was too early in the session. And I tucked the front end, which means I locked the front tire up
Yeah.
in a corner.
It rolled down, he spun out.
And I slid down on the ground and slid off the track, right?
Yeah.
Well, it broke my foot peg off.
Ah, fuck.
And it didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt the bike. It we just slid off into the grass and all, no big deal, right?
And that's what those tracks are made for.
And that's what they're made for and all that stuff, right? So I was all pissed because I broke my foot peg off and it ruined my day. Like ended my day, right?
Oh, you guys didn't carry any extra parts or nothing?
Well, keep in mind, I had these aftermarket foot pegs that were much higher,
Oh,
right?
gotcha.
So the owner of the dealership who was out there with us,
what was his name? He was super
Richard
cool dude.
Wotan.
Richard. That's right.
he says,
Super
dude,
nice guy. Weird.
He says,
Super nice guy.
yeah, he says, I'm in a different session than you. So Richard had multiple motorcycles.
Yeah.
And he would
was rich as shit.
he would run different motorcycles in different sessions based off of how fast each motorcycle would go. And so he was like, I've got a motorcycle. At this time, I was on the intermediate group, and
Yeah.
he was in the advanced group. And so he was like, dude, it's your left foot peg. It's 2 bolts. I'm in the advanced group. You're in the intermediate group.
Take my shit.
He's like, when I come off the track, we move the foot peg from my bike over to yours. And then when you come off the track, we very quickly move the foot peg back over to mine.
yeah.
And if you can come off the track a lap early, I'm going to get out there a lap late. We'll still make the day happen, right? So he's pulling me up from a bad spot.
He was a very nice guy.
Yeah. And it was kind of weird because his foot peg was the factory foot peg, so it sat lower. So I spent the whole rest of the day racing with one foot peg higher than
And
the other.
so did he.
But it didn't matter.
Reverse that. Oh,
Well,
no, because his was
it
the same.
Yeah,
okay,
his was
gotcha.
the same. But ultimately, he was pulling me out of a bad spot, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not, my head's not in the game and everything else. And I knew it was a simple mistake. I wasn't discouraged or anything else. I was just pissed because
Yeah.
I broke my bike early in the day and
Yeah,
we drove all the way out there. And
But
all that
as
stuff.
he's your boss at the time.
Yeah.
Right. So at that time, you're thinking, oh man, this guy's gonna like literally
yeah.
sacrifice a lap every time,
Right.
so that I don't have to sit here all day.
Right.
And what does that do to your psyche? It does a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like it encourages you. It makes you want to work for him harder when you're at work. And to be honest, he probably wasn't even thinking any of that. He was just thinking, hey, dude, it's no big deal.
It's just who he is.
Yeah. Just like, this is who I am. I'm going to bring, Mitch I don't want to say under my wing, but I'm going to.
You're just doing what it takes to help people.
That's right.
Is all it is.
Thank you.
So, in those cases, he was pulling me up from a bad spot, right? So in one case, the mechanic was pushing me to do better and trust things. In that case, he was pulling me up, right?
Yeah.
We have to do the same thing as employers.
Yeah.
Sometimes we know our employees are capable of a lot more than they think they are. And so it's our job to push the employee to do better. And sometimes we just got to call them on their bullshit, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that this is the best you can do. Well, I know it can be done this way.
Yeah.
And every employee is a little bit different. Sometimes you got to go show the employee that it can be done that fast or done this way before they'll trust you. And it's kind of like the 4-minute mile. The 4-minute mile was...
Fuck off.
It was impossible.
Yeah.
The 4-minute mile was never, ever going to happen. It was impossible. It was just a thing people joked about, right?
Yeah.
Until somebody broke it.
And they were like, oh,
somebody
fuck.
did a 4-minute mile.
Oh,
and then
shit.
all of a sudden... Now, 7 or 8 people are clicking off 4-minute miles left and right because they were shown it was possible, right?
Yeah.
And so that's our job as leaders in companies is to show our employees what's possible.
Yeah. And don't, like I have a good example of this, and I didn't even realize it until now. When I was first starting to show guys how to do new homes in HVAC, right? Mm-hmm. Like new ductwork and stuff like that. I went into a house, the guys literally... So the way ductwork's hung, you have to have it tight to the joist, right? Yep. If you don't, it sucks air from the gap that they leave where the duct touches the joist, right? So I'm on the guys, like probably way harder than I should have been. Like, dude, what do you fucking guys do? Look, if you're not up there, it's not sucking. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I'm pushing them, right? In the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not articulating why,
right?
Okay? I chew their butts. I go in there. I fix it all in front of them. They don't understand why. I go home. Travis, at the time, he's like, hey, man, let's go get some beers, blah, blah, blah. We go to, remember when Tanner's was in Blue Springs?
Yep.
So we used to go in there and, drink beers and watch the Royals games, whatever. He's like, hey, dude, like this was the first humbling moment I've ever had. He's like, hey, I heard what happened today. Those guys were like really upset. Like they didn't know like what was going on. I tell him, right? He's like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. He's like, dude, you can't be that hard on those guys.
Right.
He's like, you have to be like telling them why and explaining to them why, all that kind of stuff, so that they understand and can be better.
Yeah.
And so for the first time ever, I'm like, oh fuck. I'm being a super dick here.
Right.
So the next day, I go out, they're doing another job like right down the road, same house. So I go out there and like an hour after they started, I put my tool belt on, I go out there and I'm like, hey, I'm here to help.
Right. Let's knock this out.
Let's
do it together.
I had one layout to do. I did that. I showed up out there. I was like, hey guys, I just told them like flat out. I was like, I'm sorry about yesterday.
Right.
Like that's on me. I should have explained better like what we're doing here, right? I hang like 3 pieces of duct. This is return air duct. I say, see how it's got to be up so that it can't be, drawn. I explain it all. We break it all down. At the end of the day, they're like, hey man, thanks, for helping us.
Right.
Because they obviously get paid the same no matter what, all that stuff. And, but that was like what you were just saying. Mm-hmm. Like I was pushing on them too hard, right? But then the next day I was trying to pull them forward.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm trying to help you. I really am.
Yep.
I handled it badly.
Yep.
The first time, right? That's one of those growth points that we don't realize that we're doing sometimes. Like, and I know some of the guys in trade winds do that stuff. They're young. They're like, hey, what the fuck? This is how you got to do it. No. Sometimes you got to check yourself and say, no, this is what we've got to do here.
Right.
I'm going to show you. I'm sorry if I was a fucking dick about it before.
Right.
This is the right way to do it. And this is why we're doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So finding that balance of when to push them and when to pull them,
it's hard.
Is hard, right? So The third part of this, and it's different than pulling them up, is holding them accountable.
Yeah.
So pulling a guy up from a bad space is when the guy's down in the dumps and he doesn't believe that he's capable of what he actually is, or whatever the case may be. Holding him accountable is when the guy knows better, but he's still choosing to do it a different way.
Choosing to fuck it up.
Right.
Or be lazy.
And
Usually it's be lazy.
So a lot of times it's
It's
choosing
lazy.
to be lazy.
It's just fucking
right?
lazy.
And it's natural human instinct to be lazy. Society promotes laziness.
Yeah.
Right.
To take the shortcut.
DoorDash is like the epitome of
Yeah.
laziness. It's convenient.
I'd rather pay someone and hope they don't spit in my food than go to the drive-thru that's 5 minutes from my house.
Right. Right.
Like what?
Right. So, society
I cook all my own
cultures
food. So.
society cultures everybody
Just kidding.
to be lazy, but they disguise it as convenience, right?
Yeah.
And
100%,
sometimes
fucking 100%, dude.
sometimes the best way to do anything is to do it the fucking hard way. And you're not choosing to do it the hard way, you're not choosing to do it the long way. It's just that's just the way it needs to get done. You know what I mean?
Let's be honest. The hard way is the way to success.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get off topic because we're rolling really well with this one. The hard way is the way to success.
Yeah.
If everything was fucking easy,
Dude,
everyone would be successful.
Every
Okay? It's
fucking
not
morning-
fucking hard.
every morning in the
Okay.
gym, those weights ain't going to lift themselves.
Fucking A, they're not.
I can't subcontract that out. I can't delegate that. I can't buy that time back.
I don't fucking just you can there is no easy way around success. There's not.
Right.
Today, this morning, literally, I go to this. I'm not shitting you. So I used to cut my own firewood, right? I just don't have time anymore.
Yep.
I find a guy in between Grain Valley and Oak Grove on H Highway. Okay, I see a sign out there with his phone number. I take a picture of it. I call him. I was like, hey, want to get some firewood, whatever. He's like, hey, this is what I charge. It's split. It's dry. It's whatever. You show up. I'll load it up. You pay me, right? I get it. It still takes me, even when I get home, 3 hours to unload 3 cords and stack it. Mm-hmm. That's the hard way.
Yeah.
Like if you want it delivered, it's $1,500 and good luck getting someone to...
Yeah.
It's the hard way is the way.
Dude,
the hard way is the right way to get shit done the way that you want it done.
I tried shortcutting something today and it came back to bite me in the ass.
Oh, what'd you do?
So
hear me. Oh, I love when Mitch fucks up. What do you got?
I'm just trying to hold back my AI and photography rant, but I'll hold that
You
back.
just shut up, Austin. I was talking to you.
I meal prep chicken and rice, right? And that handles like 80% of my meals throughout the week. Well, so I use a sous vide machine, which is, if you don't know what a sous vide is, it's basically a little heater that goes into a bucket of water.
Yeah.
And you put
you vacuum seal chicken, you put it in there, it cooks it to the perfect temperature. It's delicious.
perfect temperature for as long as you need
Soft,
to cook it, right?
tender, moist.
So I've got my sous vide set to 145, and the first time I ever did it, I cooked like 3 pieces of chicken, and I did it in like 45 minutes. Well, then, okay, that worked. Let's go full scale. So I do 12 pieces of chicken at a time, bigger pot, longer time, just to make sure it gets. So I was doing an hour, right? Well, today we got some travel coming up this weekend. I needed more, so I only got 5 pieces of chicken. Usually I do this like 10 or 12 at a time. So I only got 5. And I'm like, I'm limited on time. So I have to cook this and eat one of them in an hour. So I set it for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I get it all done. And I start cutting everything up. Like, so I package 4 of them.
Okay.
And then I start cutting up the one that I'm going to eat. And I'm like, this ain't cutting right.
Raw shit.
And it's not raw, but it definitely ain't cooked.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, it's going to be tougher, but it is what it is. I shortened it, right? I take one fucking bite and I'm like, motherfucker, I can't even eat it.
Yeah.
It's not done, right? So I am pissed because now I don't eat. Like, I don't have time for lunch.
Yeah.
So
that's on you, dude.
And then I have to recook.
Yeah, the rest.
I'm gonna have to get all that shit back out of the fridge, go put it back in the sous vide, and cook it longer.
You fucked up.
So I tried to take a shortcut, and now it cost me a fucking hour, right? When if I would have just gotten on the ball 15 minutes sooner and let it do the full hour like it should, it would have been perfectly fine.
It's the same thing as a workout, right? Like there's no shortcuts in a workout.
No.
Like if you're gonna run for 30 minutes. you got to run for 30 minutes.
Yeah, you
If
can't
you're gonna
run
take
faster and achieve the same result in 25 minutes. All right, so if you guys haven't realized, this show has gone pretty long, so yeah, I'm losing my voice
What is the
here.
matter with you?
So, if you haven't realized, this show's gone long. We're gonna split this up into 2 episodes as to not make like a 2-hour freaking show. So this is gonna wrap up show number 1. Tune in next week for the second part of this show. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.